December 14th, 2022 meeting of the Arlington County Board of Zoning Appeals is now in session. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Arlington Board of Zoning Appeals, which is also known as the BZA. I'm Judy Freshman, Vice Chair of the board. The board's made up of 5 citizens appointed by the Circuit Court. In addition to myself, we have Chair Lindsay Arthurs, who's unable to be with us tonight, and board members Inta Malice, Portia Clark, and Richard Kaplan. Also present are the professional staff, including Blake Bowen, Board of Zoning Appeals Coordinator, Meg Ryan, BZA Associate Planner, Stephen Rissy, the Zoning Prim Supervisor, and Patricia Petrosini, Assistant to the BZA. We ask that you please give us some grace as we navigate between in-person and virtual in our format. Before we call our first case, I will share with you some general information about the Board of Zoning Appeals, and then some ground rules on how we will conduct our hybrid meeting. The board's powers are prescribed in the Code of Virginia and are set out in further detail in the county zoning ordinance adopted by the county board. The Board of Zoning Appeals does not have the power to rezone property or to amend the regulations set forth in the ordinance. That authority rests with the county board. This board does have the authority to do 3 things. We can approve use permits that allow modifications of placement requirements of structures on 1- and 2-family lots where there is no option in the zoning ordinance to allow such modifications. We can grant variances from the specific requirements of the zoning ordinance, and we can decide appeals of decisions of the zoning administrator. Now, here are some specific instructions about this evening's hybrid meeting. First of all, please silence your cell phones. Applicants and speakers, if you're attending in person, when your case is called, please move to the podium in the front of the room and identify yourself. Please be sure to speak into the microphone for the benefit of those on Teams. Please note that the podium is adjustable. Tonight's meeting is also available to stream from the county website via Microsoft Teams link. If those attending virtually lose internet connectivity during today's meeting, please reconnect with us by phone. If you're attending or viewing via the Teams link, please keep your phones and devices muted until you're called upon. Turn off sound to any other devices around you to minimize interference. Please turn off your cameras until you're called upon to speak. When called upon to speak, please turn on your camera and unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon that's located on the meeting command bar. The moderator does not have the ability to unmute you. The meeting chat is active for presenters or board members who need technical assistance only. The meeting chat should not be used for discussion, public comment, questions about agenda items, or requests for more information. All public comments must be shared verbally for the record during the assigned public testimony period. For applicants and public speakers, you will be called upon when it is time for you to speak. We requested that all speakers pre-register to speak tonight. If you did not pre-register but wish to speak, speaker slips are on a box on the table in the front of the room. Please hand your speaker slip to Meg Ryan, on my right, your left. We'll do our best to accommodate any additional speakers if time permits. Public comment will take place only within the allotted time frames. During public comment, a speaker timer will be displayed on the screen and on the podium. Please be respectful of the time allotted. Lastly, this is a public forum. Today's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to Freedom of Information Act requirements. After your case of interest is heard, you're welcome to stay for the balance of the session or leave at your convenience. Now for tonight's meeting procedures. The staff reports for each case on tonight's agenda can be found on the BZA website. A link to the agenda can be found in the chat section, as well as on a QR code on the front table to link the electronic reports for review in your own device. If you have not seen the report for your case, you may wish to review it before your item is called. There is a separate link on our agenda site that links to supplemental material. The order of our meeting is as follows. First, cases will be called, and board members will ask any questions they have of the county zoning staff. Next, applicants or their representative will be given an opportunity to make comments to support the application. Then, if there are speakers for the item, they will be called upon one at a time. After we hear from the speakers for and against the proposal, the board may permit the applicant a brief opportunity to clarify any points. The board may also ask questions of any of the speakers, but we do not permit and will not condone any cross-examination or direct questioning by others. We have deemed the following time limits for applicants and speakers to be sufficient. 5 minutes for applicants of use permits and variances, 3 minutes for speakers representing organizations, and 2 minutes for those speaking as individuals. After the board has gathered all the information we need and has discussed the case, we will decide the matter by voting on a motion duly made and seconded. A majority is needed to approve any motion. Any appeal from the decision of this board must be made to the circuit court in accordance with state law. This concludes the introductory remarks. Mr. Bowen or Ms. Ryan, would you please call the first item?
Yes, Ms. Freshman, I believe there are 2 items that the BZA was interested in performing a group motion of approval on. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I believe those case numbers are V-11797, V-11797-22-UP-1 and V-11798-22-UP-1. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I will read the, in that case, I'll read the add language for each case, and then we can go ahead and have the BZA vote on those 2 cases. The first case, V-11797-22-UP-1, is a use permit request by Scott Barkley and Hay Kang, the owners, to permit a rear setback of 16.8 feet to the deck instead of 21 feet to the deck as required regarding a deck addition in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 2419 North Kensington Street in the Leeway Overlea Civic Association. The second case is V-11798-22-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Leap Kim on behalf of the Delta Concrete Corporation, the owner, to permit a rear setback of 20.1 feet to the stormwater planter instead of 21 feet as required, regarding after-the-fact approval of a stormwater planter in the R10 zoning district on the premises known as 6708 31st Street North in the Arlington East Falls Church Civic Association. The staff recommendation for each of these 2 cases was to approve the use permit request as advertised, subject to the conditions.
Was there any supplemental material for these 2 cases?
Let me check that quickly.
And also, are there any speakers for these 2 cases?
Yes, we have speakers for both of the cases.
Okay. Then we will have to forego the consent.
And Ms. Freshman, I do believe we have supplemental material for the second case I mentioned, V-11798-22-UP-1.
Okay. So let's go back to 97 then. Would you, excuse me?
Go back to 95.
Isn't that 97?
795.
Oh, okay. Okay. Let's change the slide then, and we'll go back to the agenda. With case number 1.
So at this time, we'll go back to the very first case on the agenda then?
Yes, if we're
Okay.
going to take 3 and 4 to hear speakers, then we need, we'll take the agenda in order.
Okay, absolutely. In that case then, we will start with case number V-11795-22-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Jeff Kelly on behalf of Nicholas and Andrea Pastore, the owners, to permit a rear setback of 15 feet to the porch, 14 feet to the porch eave instead of 21 feet to the porch, 19.5 feet to the porch eave as required, regarding a rear porch addition to an existing 1-family dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 5110 6th Street North in the Bluemont Civic Association. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. Please note that there is supplemental material for this case that came in after the application package was assembled and printed.
Thank you. Would you describe the supplemental material?
Sure. We have an email correspondence regarding neighborhood outreach with a petition of support with 4 signatures.
Thank you. Board members have any questions? Okay. We have the applicant. Do we have the applicant in the room? Do we have the applicant online? Jeff Kelly?
My name is Jeff Kelly, and I'm the general contractor. I'm on telephone logging in today.
Okay. Would you like to make comments on this application?
No, I think the application and the comments in it and the recommendation by the front office is fine. I'm just here in case there's any questions by anyone on the board.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Hang on for a moment. Do we have speakers, please?
We do not for this case.
Okay, thank you. Now the discussion with the board. Do you have any questions?
I think this is Mr. Kelly that's with us.
Yes.
And this is Mr. Kelly that's with us. The owners are not with us.
Yeah, microphones doesn't seem to be on.
Yeah.
The owners are not with
hi,
us.
Hi, this is Nick Pastor. No, sorry, I'm one of the owners.
Okay, I appreciate your getting additional signatures for outreach, but I wondered about your statement that you said you were not aware that these signatures were required. Was there?
Oh yeah. Sorry, go ahead. No, so on the original outreach, we were advised to get the signatures for 3 of the adjacent properties, and then when we received a correspondence from the BZA representatives to acquire the next one, we were just not aware that the additional addresses were required, so we did conduct that outreach. We were able to obtain accept signature from one of the 2 homeowners.
I was just curious who advised you that these signatures were not required initially, because I just want to make sure that our instructions are clear to applicants.
I'd have to go back through the correspondence, and it was either through discussions with the contractor or through the initial application. Somewhere along the way, we just didn't know those last 2 were required, but as soon as we were notified, we went ahead and did everything we could to make that immediate contact and obtain the signatures.
Okay, I just, you probably will never come back here again, but there are instructions on the website as to, what constitutes complete neighborhood outreach. And people that complete neighborhood outreach and have, otherwise approvable applications get expedited consideration. And just want people to know that there's an advantage to having complete applications before they come to the hearing.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? No speaker? Okay. There's no, yes,
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion.
please.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution granting use permit B-11795-22-UP-1,
I second it.
subject to the conditions listed.
Second.
Thank you. It's moved by Mr. Kaplan, seconded by Ms. Clark. I'll call the roll. Ms. Malice?
Aye.
Ms. Clark?
Aye.
Mr. Kaplan?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion is approved 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Call the next case, please. Absolutely. The next case is case number V-11796 2022-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Skylar Herons on behalf of 1713 North Cameron Street LLC, the owner, to permit a street setback of 18.5 feet to the building wall, 17.5 feet to the building eave, instead of 25 feet to the wall, 21 feet to the eave as required, and a street setback of 12.8 feet to the porch, 11.8 feet to the porch eave, instead of 21 feet to the porch, 19.5 feet to the porch eave as required, all from North Cameron Street, regarding the construction of a new one-family dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 1713 North Cameron Street within the John M. Langston Civic Association. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. Please note that there is supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packets were assembled and printed. This supplemental material includes email correspondence regarding neighborhood outreach, and we also have a hard copy that was received at the beginning of the hearing tonight, and I will pass that out now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions of the staff? I have one, but I'll yield to my colleagues. No questions?
I guess I was a little confused. Is this a reno or a new completely new construction?
So that is an interesting question. It depends on someone who you ask to. By zoning standards, we're treating this as new construction, but according to the Inspection Services Division, who issued the building permit, they are treating it as a renovation. There is a porch that's going to remain on site, so there is an element that is existing, but that porch seems to be modified based on the setback shown on the proposed plat.
Okay.
That was actually one of my questions, because when I looked at the site and I was confused by the freestanding porch and the existing foundation. And if we're talking about street setback exceptions, correct?
Mm.
It seemed to me that if the house was set back similarly to its neighbors, it wouldn't be an issue. We wouldn't be here at all.
Mhm.
But I presume we're here because they've chosen to retain part of the old structure?
Yes,
Okay.
with similar setbacks if it is indeed being modified.
I would like more, when the time comes, I would like more information about that. Any other questions for staff?
Yeah,
Yes, Ms. Mullins.
The supplemental material indicates that, or that we received in
The hard copy we were just handed.
the one that came earlier. This one says we actually received neighborhood approval last year.
My question for the applicant is this from last year or this current?
And my question to staff is this application been around for a year?
The application, I can check the submission date, but there was some back and forth given that there was confusion as to whether this would be new construction or a renovation. So we did have it for longer than we've had some applications, but I can check the submission date if you'd like.
Okay, well, we can talk to the applicant about it too, because it made it sound like we should have already had these signatures a year ago, and I was a little confused about that.
I think that's referring to going to the Civic Association based on the applicant's email, them visiting the Civic Association meeting. But we can also ask the applicant for clarification.
And also, there's no date on this petition, so that would be helpful. Okay, how about we have the applicant? Mr. Aarons.
Good evening. Thank you, as usual, for the opportunity to present this. So yes, I apologize. It's been kind of a confusing road for everyone involved. I don't think it's necessarily intentional by any means. When the permit was approved originally, it's basically everything as is. They were going to keep the existing porch and then possibly come back for a use permit to do the decking and guardrails and stuff and typical kind of reinforcement stuff for the porch. Essentially, this use permit is requesting for essentially siding and to rebuild the front porch. That's what this use permit request is for. There was existing siding on the house. We're staying within the same footprint. Just when they do the new sheathing on the studs and sister new studs, they're going to put new sheathing on, new siding. and that will protrude about an inch further than what you currently see on the existing front siding and facade of the house. So that's the first part of the use permit request. The second part is they want to basically rebuild a similar front porch to what you're seeing there. Obviously a little less decrepit and more aesthetically pleasing. It's going to be a tad bit smaller than existing. That was one of the things I'd point out to the owner. I said, look, if we're going to keep this and renovate it or replace it, you're going to want to build it just a tad bit smaller so that we're just a little bit less intrusive than where we currently are. And again, so what had happened was the owner had approval to do basically what you're seeing there, minus some extra 20 feet going toward the back of the structure. When she had planned to enlarge it, it had increased the size and triggered a grading plan requirement. And so she's been trying to comply with LDA requirements as well. So to make sure that the site is being properly done through DES standards and requirements and arborist requirements and things like that. So that's what I mean. It's been kind of back and forth because originally we basically had approval for what you're seeing, but it was when she wanted to enlarge the structure toward the rear, it sort of kind of, and I'm sorry, with that change, she also wanted to create a garage in the front, which changed the porch layout. And so that's what triggered the need for the use permit at this stage.
What previous approval are you talking about?
So essentially, there currently is an approval for this structure, basically almost the same way you see it, except the porch wasn't rebuilt. It was going to be the existing porch remaining, and it was about 20 feet shorter in the back. That was approved.
Approval being a building permit?
Correct. We have an approved building permit for almost the same structure you're seeing. It's just, again, it was a little 20-foot bigger in the back, and we replaced the front porch essentially so that you could do a garage in the front at the basement level. So it was that triggered everything. I mean, essentially everything was done by right. But again, because we just wanted to make that change in the front, that's what kind of sort of triggered everything. I know a lot of times people worry, well, are you taking care of the site stuff and things like that? We are, because they are doing an LDA permit that's, I believe, about to be resubmitted, but it's gone through a set of comments and is basically ready to go. But again, this structure is staying where it was. It will propose to stay where it's been for the last 98 years.
So you're saying the new structure is going to go 20 feet deeper into the property?
That for the current, what you see now, yes, with the plans you have, with the proposed elevations, floor plans, and plat, that's what was increased from the original approval. Yes, that's what we're building, what we have currently shown.
Okay.
Now, as far as the process and I know this was brought up between single family, I've been doing this for 20 years in all the jurisdictions. The problem is, and it's not unique to Arlington, zoning has a different, ordinance and standard than sometimes the building side has. So you sometimes cross and there's contradictions in terminologies and how they handle things. We did speak to ISD, I think back in June before we even applied for this, because I had asked them, I said, hey, I've been doing this a long time. I know this is kind of on that threshold of a new house from where it originally was as a renovation / addition. How are you, as everyone, and we had multiple department heads on that email, and we were just trying to, truthfully find out how the county was going to evaluate it so that we could properly propose it and not, end up doing something and wasting 3 months and finding out, hey, you should have filed it this way versus that way. And so from like Mr. Blake had said that zoning said they would treat it pretty much as a single family, but ISD was going to treat it as a residential addition / renovation.
Okay.
So we've been kind of stuck.
Can you address the date of these signatures that were handed to us?
I'm sorry.
Today. They're from today.
Okay. You collected all of these signatures today?
I actually had talked to all the neighbors in December of last year, but I wanted to have something more up to date to share with you guys.
Okay. All right.
Okay, we need.
Thank you.
And just to understand why, to your question about why we were doing this back in December last year, we didn't apply for the use permit a year ago. We had anticipated in the future to just apply for a use permit for the porch separate from the house itself. Because again, the house was allowed to be constructed by right. So we were just trying to be preemptive and try to get our ducks in a row before we got to a point where we were going to. But what happened was with the stop work order, it triggered us to have to get the use permit sooner than we anticipated.
So,
Any other questions? Oh, go
yeah,
ahead, Ms. Mel.
so you talked about siding.
I'm sorry?
You talked about siding, needing to add
Siding, yes.
siding.
Yes.
Is that on the porch or on the whole structure?
I believe now it would be, well, so it exists currently on that first floor wall. And when they underpin the foundation in the front to trying to create that garage area, I believe that garage area will also have siding, but it's all still the same flush, location coming down from where it pre-existed. It's just going to be adding siding, new siding to the face of that.
Okay. And I was, and this is for staff, is there any relief required for the air conditioning units that are on the left side?
So long as air conditioning units are screened, they can be as close as 5 feet to a side property line. And if they're unscreened, they can be as close as 8 feet. So let me
Okay.
look at the plat to verify
So,
that measurement.
yeah, I couldn't tell if there was screening or not.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, so I quickly went through the list of 9 signatures, and most of them are not in the adjacent neighbors. So it seems like we're missing a lot of your most impacted neighbors.
Okay.
Right, like 1721 Cameron, 1717 Cameron, 1732, 26 and 20 Culpeper, 433, 4939, 4945 17th Road North.
These are none of the next door neighbors.
Right. We have the ones adjacent across the street,
Which you were
but
most,
not.
well, I guess I would argue the ones across the street are the most impacted since they're the ones being encroached upon.
Well, whenever there's land disturbance, we want to know.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm just saying, it was made it seem like we didn't, anyone that was impacted, I would say the ones in the front are the most impacted because they're the ones being encroached in front. If, you could argue the ones on the sides aren't even going to see this.
I would like to see responses from all the neighbors that are affected here.
One of the determinations we need to make as a board is that it fits in with the character of the community. And one way we can do that is by neighborhood outreach and feedback from more adjacent neighbors.
I understand. I do know the owner has reached out. Again, she went out and got Civic Association approval, I think twice now. It's not once, but twice.
But that's not in front of us.
No, I'm sorry.
Civic Association approval is not, I haven't seen anything in front of us. So.
From the association?
Yeah.
Correct. So we would just have to take your word on that.
Yeah, but so you're expanding to the back, so we would like to know what your backyard neighbor thinks. And you're doing this construction on either side, on your front, so we'd like to know what your neighbors on either side of your house think about this.
So
Did you not reach out to those
No,
people?
I did. I spoke to all of my neighbors. And the ones on the right-hand side, which is I think that's 17th Road. This was in December, January. They were all fine with the construction. Honestly, when I went back by today, they just weren't home because it was during the workday. My neighbors want to see this project get to a cleaner spot because they have kids. Their yards are being impacted, fences are bowing in, and I promised them all that I was going to come here today to get this so I could move forward with getting the building permits. I could rectify the issues on their properties. I can't even repair the party fencing between my property and theirs until the permitting is squared away.
Yeah, Langston Civic Association is usually very vocal and sends us information.
The information was provided to Blake a few weeks ago, so you should have it.
I do have a letter that was received today from the Civic Association that came in at, I believe you
Is
said.
that the motion, the minutes from January?
Yeah, we did get a letter this afternoon from the John M. Langston Civic Associated dated January 26, 2021.
21?
21?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
2 years ago. I'm just saying.
It was a year ago, but I spoke to my president today and she was still giving me her full blessing and support.
I really would be more comfortable if we deferred this and gave you a chance to check with those neighbors.
Let's see. Do we have speakers, Mike?
No.
Ms. Ryan? Do we have speakers?
We do not for this case.
Not for this case,
Thank
no.
you. Okay, what is your pleasure?
I would make a motion to defer.
Is that a formal motion?
In the matter V-11796-22-UP-1, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals defer this matter to its January 2023 meeting.
I'll second it.
It's been moved by Ms. Malice and seconded by Ms. Clark to defer the matter to the January 2023 Board of Zoning Appeals. Any further discussion? I'll call the roll. All those in favor? One at a time,
Actually
for
don't have
one
to
at a
call
time
the
for the
roll.
record, I know. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Mr. Kaplan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion to defer is approved 4-0.
It's not a joke.
We'll see you in January.
It's ridiculous.
Call the next case, please.
Certainly, Ms. Freshman. The next case on the agenda is case number V-11797-22-UP-1. This is the use permit request by Scott Barkley and Hay Kang, the owners, to permit a rear setback of 16.8 feet to the deck instead of 21 feet to the deck as required regarding a deck addition in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 2419 North Kensington Street in the Leeway Overley Civic Association. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. Please also note that we have additional speakers who have signed up to speak on this case, including 2 specific speakers.
And supplemental material? No?
No supplemental material for this
Okay,
case.
thank you. Any questions for the
Wait a minute,
staff?
am I saying supplemental material for this?
97?
Oh,
No.
we're the consent item now.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Different pile. Any questions for the staff on this application? Hearing none. Applicant in the room or online?
I am online. Good evening. This is Scott Barclay, and my wife and I are homeowners of 2419 North Kensington Street. We're applying for a use permit to build a back deck which extends into the rear setback of 21 feet. Our proposed deck will have a depth of 8 feet, which will extend into the rear setback, and we're requesting a use permit for rear setback of 16.8 feet. The main building footprint will remain compliant at 29.9%. The total lot coverage remains compliant at 46.6%. As noted in the staff analysis on page 3, there are a number of neighbors who have BZA approved use permits with a rear setback less than we have requested. And this includes our neighbor at 2504 North Kenilworth Street, with whom we share a property border. And this property has a back deck with a setback of 15 feet. Another neighbor at 2509 North Kenilworth has a rear addition with a setback of 13 feet. And I am here to support any questions or comments from the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
Was it your intention that you would be visible to us?
I'm sorry, my camera is non-functional tonight.
Okay.
My apologies.
No, we just want to make sure if you wish to be visible, that we'd make it happen.
Do we have speakers for this item?
We do. We have 2.
May I ask a question of staff?
Yes, please.
Um,
Just a moment, please.
this property has a rectangular space behind it. Who owns that?
I will look that up.
I don't mean who, but is there a homeowner or is that county property?
I will check that now.
Thank you. You'll see what I'm talking about on the map.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I good to go?
Are you the applicant?
No,
No,
I'm
you're-
the
you're-
first additional speaker, Heidi Schwartz.
Okay, speaking, okay, you have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you to the zoning board for providing this opportunity to
Ms.
speak.
Schwartz, excuse me, could you tell us your address?
Sure, 5621 Langston Boulevard, previously Lee Highway. So thank you again to the board for letting me speak. And looking at the past track record of zoning applications, it appears that very rarely is there opposition. Here there is, and that zoning variances are generally approved. I am hopeful, given the thoughtful questions I've heard today from the board, that my concern will be heard and will make a difference to you. If you look at the map that you provided with the notice, it shows that 2419 is very close to the back property line, much closer to the back property line than most other houses in the area, with a garage that is almost on the property line. What does not show is that the area between my house, 5621 Langston, and that of 2419 is green space for the Mary Muse community. It is relatively flat and private, set back from the roads, and the private green space in the community is one of the reasons many of us chose to buy our homes in Mary Muse. Critically, what the map also does not show is the elevation at which the 2419 deck would be built. 2419's lower level is fully above ground and backs and slopes down to the green area that is Mary Muse. The deck would be more than a full story above the Mary Muse green space, being built on the second floor in the back of 2419. It would be at such an elevation that if it extends to just under 17 feet from the back property line, it would look directly into the green space of the community, destroying all privacy for that space and providing a feeling of almost always having someone over us. Taking away the privacy of that green space will diminish the enjoyment of the community and the value of our homes. For these reasons, I ask that you deny the variance. Zoning laws and distance requirements are there for good reasons, and this presents an excellent example of a variance that should be denied. A patio on the ground level would not present the issues described, can be built in compliance with zoning regulations, no variance needed, and would not harm nor change the nature of the community around 2419. I would also note I don't believe there are any signatures in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Did you say that the property is owned by the Muse?
It's Mary Muse. It's a homeowners association. There are 17 townhouses there, and that property is the most private green space we have. It's green space with a few trees, and it's really important to the community.
But it is under the Muse ownership. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wait, I'm sorry. Quick
Oh,
question.
sorry.
Quick question.
Oh, I'm
Does-
sorry. I'm sorry, sir.
Does your community have a association or a board?
We do, yes.
Have they taken a position?
They have not. Honestly, the president's pretty overwhelmed with things. He did go by. She did not sign in support.
I mean, but as a community as a whole.
We haven't taken the time to get everyone to say that they don't support it, but we probably could if that's something that you would like us to do. We don't vote very often on anything, so it's hard. But if that's something that you'd like, we'll go back to them.
Thank you. Next speaker?
Good evening. My name is Vishali Sakotra. I live in 5623 buildings. I'm close to the 2419.
5623?
5623.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. So we bought our home some time ago. I have 3 children, and my youngest is 18 months old. I have an older child, and my middle child is no longer with us. But I bought that property because of the exact location of it. As you can see, we are located on Langston Boulevard, so there's not much place for my children to play. And this is the only spot that I've had my kids play. It's the flattest space that we have. My 2 older kids have played there. I have a little one that I look forward to playing with her there. We have many children who are newly born in our community. We used to have an older population, and now there are new families coming in. And so we have 7 new children under the age of 3 who will be using this property, this space. We have equipment, playing equipment for them. And by building the deck, it literally overlooks all of that private space. We hold parties there for little children. And I just feel like it would be detrimental to the way we live and the reason I bought this home. And so I truly think it's not a good idea to have the deck being built there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions for the speaker? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's the last speaker? Okay, then the discussions with the board.
Ms. Freshman, it may have already been answered by our speakers, but Mr. Kaplan, that
Yes.
private space is owned by the
Yeah,
adjoining
thank you.
townhouse.
And the 2 speakers were immediately adjacent to that green space. Yeah. Thank you.
Did we have pictures of the back or the rear of the house where the deck is to be added?
They just, yeah,
That's the only view? Okay.
you can't really tell here.
So,
There, you can sort of see it.
so may I ask a question, Steph?
Please.
So we have a plan view and we have some sketches of the deck. Is there anything in here that shows exactly where on the back of the building this deck attaches?
I will pull up the project plans now and take a look. We should have a proposed rear building elevation in for most of our applications, so I'll do that now.
It's on the flat. Isn't it? It's on the flat. Is that what you mean?
It's a rear, it doesn't, I see where that's a plan view. Where is it? She mentioned it was on the second story, and so I'm trying to figure out where the deck attaches.
It's probably a walkout basement.
This is Scott Barclay, the homeowner. If I could please
Sure.
answer that. It is
Sure.
a walkout. And on page 11, there is an elevation view.
Page 11 in our package?
Yes, ma'am.
No, I have 11 pages.
Most of our pages are numbered.
There is the plat.
I see it, but it's an elevation, but it's not, doesn't show the house. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, I wanted to see where it attaches on the house.
But it says it's
It would on the first floor. So the elevation is 6 foot, is 8 feet. If you see the elevation drawing, it's 8 feet.
8 feet from the ground.
Yes, from the lowest point on the ground.
The top of is 8 feet from the ground.
Yeah.
Yes. And if I also may respond when the opportunity presents itself. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. While I acknowledge and appreciate the concern, the privacy concern mentioned is applicable to any rear deck that's built, regardless of the depth of the deck. In other words, the setback. And since our intent is to build the deck adhering to the zoning regulations, the perceived privacy concern will be realized whether the setback request is approved or not. And I respectfully submit that my request is not a decision on whether the deck will be built, but the dimensions of the deck. And we are requesting a setback of 4.2 feet into the setback itself. And we've resided at 2419 North Kensington Street for almost 18 years. We're a family of 4. We are respectful community members involved in our neighborhood and are always aware of and considerate towards our neighbors. And we'd appreciate the consideration of the approval of this deck application.
Ms. Freshman?
Ms. Malice.
Have you had an opportunity to talk with the residents of the Muse?
Yes, I have. On or about September 1st, I hand-delivered the outreach letter to the property owner at 5623 Langston Boulevard. I spent several minutes reviewing our plan and pointed out the email address on the outreach letter, which is contained in the packet on page 12, and asked him to reach out if he had any questions or concerns. The homeowner stated that he was no longer the HOA president and that I should deliver it to the HOA president at 5637 Langston Boulevard. That same day, I delivered to the household of 5637 Langston. I was unable to hand deliver to the HOA president because she was not available, but instead handed it to the male occupant, whom I assumed was the partner or husband, and briefly explained the project. He told me he'd deliver it to his wife, and thereafter, I didn't hear any communication from either the homeowner at 5623 or the HOA president at 5637. On December 7th, 2022, I again attempted to hand deliver to the HOA president. I was unable to hand deliver, but left it again with the male occupant. And to date, until 5 minutes ago, I had not received any communication from the homeowner at 5623 nor the HOA president.
So just to be clear, you went to the door of 5623?
That is correct, yes.
And did you go to the door of 5621?
No, I did not.
Okay, it's okay. So you did actually knock on and 5623 did you have a response from them?
Yes, the male occupant who I assume used to be, I worked with him on a tree that fell between our yards a couple years ago. He told me he was not the HOA president anymore. What I did was I explained the plan, what we were interested in doing, and he deferred me over to the HOA president. He had no questions, or I will say he had no questions at that time. He simply deferred me to the HOA president.
So that's the current resident there.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
Madam
for-
Chair, was,
Sorry.
for a question for the applicant, was there any outreach to your neighbors across North Kensington or the other property owners at, in the Kenilworth Street Court that are behind your property?
Yes, ma'am. On Kensington Street, the two affected neighbors are 2415 and 2421 North Kensington Street. And in the packet, you'll see that they both sent email as part of the approval process, and they have indicated that they support this request. And this is on page 13.
So was there outreach to 2414, 5702?
Not across the street because it's a back deck.
So again, I don't know if you listened, we do have a general requirement that all affected neighbors are, and we define affected by adjacent or contiguous. So we would look for feedback from the neighbors across the street, but at this point, I don't think that's the issue.
Okay.
The issue is really what's happening in the backyard. The issue concern from the neighbors is the fact that there's a grade change, and that while your deck is basically on the first floor because of the grade change, it is much higher than the grade of the park. I think that's the issue, and whether that's use permits are have individual characteristics. So even though there's a deck may be approved somewhere else at that same location, elevation, distance, the topography does enter into the discussion. So I think there's a valid point to be considered here, whether or not that makes a difference here.
Yes, ma'am. If I may say one more thing, our intent is to build the deck, and whether we do receive the setback or not. Therefore, I think the privacy concern I understand. However, we are very respectful of the community, considerate of the community, and I think the scope is the revised setback of 16.8 rather than a yes, no on building the deck. And
Yeah,
thank you for your attention.
Sure. Your deck, if you were to build, you would be building approximately a 4-foot deep deck.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that's a valid point, because even at that level, you still have this, you're still overlooking the open space that the neighbors are concerned about.
Yeah, I was looking for that clarification as well. Any other questions or comments? Okay, what is your pleasure? Somebody needs to make a motion.
So I appreciate the concern of the neighbors, but the fact is that regardless of the size of the deck being built, it will overlook the play space. So the question is whether the additional 4 feet makes a material difference. And honestly, I don't see it making a material difference. Whether it's somebody's 4 feet from your property or 8 feet from your property, I think the effect is almost negligible. So they could build that 4-foot deck without permission, without our permission. And so I tend to think that they, you know, that this project is approvable.
Would you like to make a motion to that effect?
I would also add to that, you know, it is a public space for the condo community or what's the, you know, the word I'm looking for. And so I'm having trouble with, you know, this board enforcing some privacy rights for I think 13 townhouse community, right? When, you know, an owner who lives in that community can go and camp out there, you know, essentially all the time as a common use property. So I'm having trouble trying to enforce an adjacent property owner's privacy rights over that parcel.
So
I tend to agree with Ms. Malice.
I will make a motion I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution approving use permit V-11797-22-UP-1, subject to the conditions listed.
And I will second.
Moved by Ms. Malice and seconded by Mr. Kaplan for approval. I'll call the roll. Ms. Malice?
Aye.
Ms. Clark?
No.
Did you say no?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Kaplan?
Yes.
Chair votes aye. The motion is passed 3-1. Thank you. Call the next case, please.
Yes, Madam Chair, or excuse me, Madam Vice Chair. The next case is case number
Here tonight.
Yes, that's correct. Madam Temporary Chair. The next case number is case number V-11798-22-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Leap Kim on behalf of the Delta Concrete Corporation, the owner, to permit a rear setback of 20.1 feet to the stormwater planter instead of 21 feet as required, regarding after-the-fact approval of a stormwater planter in the R10 zoning district on the premises known as 6708 31st Street North in the Arlington East Falls Church Civic Association. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. Please note that there is supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packet was assembled and printed. This includes email correspondence regarding neighborhood outreach with USPS, receipt, and tracking records. And please note that we also have an additional speaker who has signed up to speak on this case.
Thank you. Questions for the staff?
Just what case, I mean, is this one of the consent items?
98,
This is 98,
after the fact.
after the fact approval. Got it. Thank you.
Can we hear from the applicant, please?
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Can't
Hi,
see.
my name is, yes?
Can hear you, but not see you. Did you want to be seen?
Oh, my camera is not working, unfortunately, so I apologize.
No worries.
So
Go ahead,
my name is Leap Kim. I'm the civil engineer representing Delta Concrete Corporation. We're here to respectfully request a minor 0.9 foot encroachment into the required side yard of 21 feet to allow for an existing planter box, stormwater urban bioretention planter box as constructed under an approved LDA that was done by a separate engineer, to allow for this planter box to encroach by 11 inches into the required side yard. I'd like to note that this planter box does provide water quality benefit to the application and to the community at large, and that it does present actually a positive result relative to stormwater runoff from the subject property. Great care has been taken to ensure that the drainage patterns associated with this result in minimal off-site impacts with respect to the grading and the site runoff. And additionally, the total lot coverage percentage of all structures on site is not impacted by the existing stormwater planner.
Okay. thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Speaker?
We have a speaker by the name of Paul Marion who signed up to speak.
Okay.
Is it okay if I take this off?
Yes?
My name is Paul Marion. I've lived in Arlington County for over 40 years and at 3030 North Tuckahoe Street for almost 37 years. I'm here to strongly support this proposal, even if it was before the fact I'd support it because my property is directly behind this house.
Mhm.
And what the diagrams and maps don't really show very well is that there's a steep grade. And so any runoff from this house would and does come into my yard. So I'm strongly in support of it. However, I would like to register a concern, not a complaint because I know we've all been under duress the last couple of years, but a concern that the neighbor outreach in this case was minimal. I received a letter from the staff around December 1st or 2nd. I received a letter from the developer on December 8th. The staff report was written December 9th, saying there had been no input from the neighbors. On the 8th or the 9th, believe it was the 9th, I contacted John Wilson, the president of the Arlington East Falls Church Civic Association, where I used to serve for many years, and listened to a lot of these variance requests. John told me, and I have his email to, if you are interested in seeing it, that he had not heard anything about this variance request. So I do want to register that concern, but at the same time, I don't want to let it stand in the way of approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marion.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Not a question.
Okay,
Comment.
thank you.
Question
Go
for
ahead.
the applicant. So this was a by right construction project?
That's correct.
Okay. And so it's the construction error, and the error is how big?
I'm sorry?
How big is the error? About
10 inches.
No. 10 inches.
Less than a foot.
Yeah, 10 inches. So I just wanted to, I guess, address Mr. Marion. As you've heard from the previous cases, we do question applicants about neighborhood outreach, and we will defer cases when we feel that the outreach wasn't adequate. You know, we err on the, overzealous side. I guess in this case, because it was a by right project and it's a construction error, which means, it's already built.
Can I ask what is a by right project?
Okay. This project required no permission from the county other than a building permit. It did not come before us to be built. And it would not have come before us if there hadn't been an error of 10 inches on the planter.
Any other comments or questions? Have a motion?
Motion.
Yes, sir.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit V-11798-22-UP-1 subject to the conditions listed.
I'll second it.
Been moved by Mr. Kaplan and seconded by Ms. Clark for approval. I'll call the roll. Ms. Malice?
Aye.
Ms. Clark?
Aye.
Mr. Kaplan?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. It's approved 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Call the next case, please.
Sure thing, Ms. Freshman. The next case is case number V-11799-22-UP-2. This is a use permit request by Ronald and Amanda Taylor, the owners, to permit a rear setback of 12.7 feet to the addition, 12.2 feet to the eave, instead of 25 feet to the addition, 21 feet to the eave as required, regarding a new one-story rear addition to an existing semi-detached dwelling in the R270 district on the premises known as 852 South Ivy Street, Arlington Heights Civic Association. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the use permit request. 2 alternative resolutions with conditions have been provided should the BZA see fit to approve the application as advertised or with a minimum rear setback of 13 feet. Please also note that we have supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packets were assembled and printed. This includes email correspondence regarding the revised plans to show a 13-foot rear setback, as well as email correspondence regarding clarification of neighborhood outreach.
Thank you. Any questions for the staff?
Yes, Mr. Bowen, this revised plat, is that consistent with the advertisement?
Sorry, I didn't clearly hear that question, Ms. Mouse.
The revised plat, is it consistent with the advertisement?
The revised plat has been submitted. I may defer that question to Ms. Ryan, who wrote the staff report. She might have a better sense of that answer than I do.
So the advertisement was 12.7 feet to the addition wall and 12.2 feet to the eave. After seeing the staff report of recommendation for denial, since we couldn't find any examples closer than 13 feet, the applicant went ahead and met with me, and they revised their site plan and their elevations to show a 13-foot rear setback to be consistent with the examples staff found.
So how much of a difference is there between what was originally shown and what's now shown?
About 0.3 feet to the wall.
So the proposed addition is slightly smaller in order to be in conformance with the advertisement.
Yes, they revised it, so they're cutting back the addition a little bit to meet that 13-foot rear setback.
So less is more.
So it's in order to be consistent with
the alternative resolution, since staff couldn't find anything closer than 13 feet in the neighborhood.
the alternate resolution.
If we were to approve it, though the staff recommends denial, then it would be consistent with that motion.
So is staff recommend now, was this change staff's recommendation?
This possibly could, change staff's recommendation. We do have a resolution for denial for that 12.7 feet because we couldn't find anything closer for that building wall, but we did find something 13 feet within the surrounding neighborhood.
All right.
But at the time of writing the staff report, we did write an alternative resolution if you see fit, the 13-foot rear setback.
Okay.
Okay, and that number was just picked so it would be consistent with comps?
Yes.
And what changes were made to make it that much smaller?
They reduced the footprint by, I believe, 0.3 feet. So in the supplemental material, you should see the proposed site plan and elevation showing that change.
Well, overall, that's good news.
Any other questions of the staff? Hear from the applicant, please.
Good evening. Let me start by saying thank you to the BZA for giving an opportunity to speak tonight. So I did speak with Meg and did make those adjustments. Made those adjustments also to conform to what we were approved for in 2015. So it meets that setback. We were approved in 2015. We have a rear uncovered deck currently that meets the 13.1 setback. I think the 12.7 feet allows for a slight margin of error. And I think since we're also including framing, drywall, et cetera, it's adding a little bit in terms of that space. But if it will make the BZA feel more comfortable, certainly we can conform to the recommendation of 13 feet as a setback.
It is our experience that quite often we have at least one case per agenda where it's a matter of inches because of that sort of thing. And we have had applicants who have deliberately added inches just in hopes that they didn't have to come back later. So we understand that sort of adjustment. Any questions for the applicants?
Just the previous BZA action in 2015 Was that built?
Yes.
Okay.
So we currently have we currently have an uncovered rear deck. We'd like to remove that, create a ledger board, attach it to the house, and then cover it. Have a rear story, one story covered deck with the same dimensions.
But
But I think
this one is only 1 story.
It's 1 story, correct, just covered. And I think again, those 13.1 to 12.7, I think that's framing drywall. That's kind of,
Right.
because that doesn't exist currently.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicants?
There was one on the, I'm sorry, on the back of the staff report, there's a signature.
Correct.
Who-
I'm sorry.
What address was that, just for the record?
Yeah, I'm sorry. One of them didn't come out.
It's the one behind on Glebe.
It's all the way at the back,
Don't know, it's back.
back of our package.
This one. Oh, here it is.
Looks like starts with 8.
840,
845.
845, I believe.
Glebe Road.
845 South Glebe Road.
Or is that 840? Yeah, just,
We have 843 South Glebe.
right, I got that.
I believe it's 845.
845, okay.
The Rosales
There was
family.
some communication that clarified that. Whether it was supplemental, I'm not sure, but I believe I read something about that just recently.
There was. I did exchange emails
Clarifying
with.
the fuzzy
Correct.
address.
Oh,
Which I took to mean both of the properties to the rear.
There is a 841 in supplemental.
841, okay, got
So
it.
are we contending the one we can't read is 845?
841, got it.
Yes.
Is 845 not 841?
It's 841.
840.
So we don't have
The
845.
blurry one is 845. It's in the first paragraph.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
There was an additional one. I got all the ones requested based on the.
No, it's in there on the 3rd page.
Yeah, okay, I see, I'm just looking at the addresses
Okay.
here. I think we're good.
Yes.
Any other questions or anything else that you want us to know?
841, 843, and 845.
841, okay,
Okay, good.
thank you. Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you. So the question before us is the staff recommendation for denial with an alternate resolution for approval with the new calculation about which we have had discussion.
So the alternate resolution,
So we believe that staff would change the recommendation under the alternative number 2 with the 13-foot rear setback?
So we won't change it for what was advertised, but we did provide the alternative resolution and the plans that were submitted if you see fit for that change.
so now we're at
We
12.7.
concur we would go with the alternative number 2.
Right, which is up to us, whether or not they recommend or not.
And we need to put this into the record,
Okay, well,
Or
that
is
can
it
be part of the motion.
this plat and drawing.
Does it have a date?
At the bottom.
In the alternative, they reference the staff report date. But you might,
It's
you might want to
12/13/22.
include another.
Handwritten.
Ms. Freshman, I believe you could refer to it as the plat in the supplemental materials for the case and refer to the
Okay.
case number and address.
Does it have a date on it?
It has a handwritten date at the bottom.
On that plat?
Yeah, there is a handwritten date at the very bottom reading 12/13/22.
12/13, okay. Okay. Can I have a motion, please?
I'm glad to make that motion. In case number V-11799-22-UP-2, I move the proposed alternate number 1 resolution Is that right? Approved as
It
advertised?
says number two.
I think we're on alternate number 2, but
Two,
Number two.
sorry.
could be wrong.
No, that's
Number
correct.
Okay.
2. I move that the proposed resolution alternative 2, approval of a 13-foot rear setback to the wall and eave with conditions as outlined in the staff report. And referencing
Would that be
the
number
plat
three?
that we received in the supplemental material, which is dated 12/13/22.
Would that be condition 3?
And yeah, we'll change that,
An additional
add addition, make it a condition number 4.
3. There's only 2, right?
I did 3.
What? I see 3.
Oh, well, it's not numbered. Okay. So if you add the plat at number 3 and then the building permit is number 4?
So, you want me to reference the plat in condition number 4?
3.
3.
That's the building permit.
We're going to move that to 4.
Oh, I see.
That's usually
I
the
see.
last.
I see.
Okay?
Okay.
Excuse me, Ms. Freshman and Ms. Malice. It may be easier, and this is just a suggestion, of course, to note the date and the drawing as an addendum to condition number 1, which also references the 13-foot rear setback.
Okay.
Okay. As shown, so I'm adding to condition number 1, as shown in the supplemental material received at the hearing, that shows a plat dated
12/13.
12/13/22.
Yes. Okay. So then
That's, so that.
it's
so-
added to number 1 and 2 and 3 remain.
Right.
Okay. Is everyone clear? Do we have a second?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Is everybody clear?
Mhm.
Have a second to the motion, please.
I'll second it.
Okay. So it's been moved by Ms. Malice and seconded by Ms. Clark that the proposed resolution alternative, shown as alternative 2, with an additional reference to the plat in condition number 1. Moved and seconded. I'll call a roll. Ms. Malice. Ms. Malice. Aye. Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Mr. Capel.
Aye.
Mask is
Chair votes
interfering
aye.
with my hearing.
Chair votes aye. 4-0. Way to go. All right. Moving right along. Next case, please.
Sure thing. The next case is case number V-11800-22-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Kevin McGovern and Dennis Zauner on behalf of Rock Spring Homes LLC, the owner, to permit a street setback of 18.7 feet to the main building, 17.7 feet to the eave, instead of 25 feet to the main building, 21 feet to the eave, to permit a street setback of 18.7 feet to the front porch, 17.7 feet to the porch eave, instead of 21 feet to the front porch, 19.5 feet to the porch eave, and to permit a street setback of 15 feet to a stormwater planters and window well, instead of 21 feet as required, all from 15th Street North, regarding a new one-family dwelling on a corner lot in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 1503 North Buchanan Street within the Waycroft Woodlawn Civic Association. Staff recommends that the board adopt the proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. Please note that we have supplemental materials for this case that came in after the application packets were assembled and printed. This includes email correspondence regarding clarification of neighborhood outreach, as well as a BZA comment form from Michael Bruce, the president of the Waycroft Woodlawn Civic Association, and a neighbor to the south, approximately 207 feet away. And please note that we also have additional speakers who have signed up to speak on this case, including Michael Bruce.
In addition to Michael Bruce, we have a speaker?
No, sorry, just Michael Bruce.
Okay. So in the interest of full disclosure, I lived across the street from this property for a dozen years. And I was also president of the Civic Association a time or two. So I'm very familiar with it. And that's just as a matter of entertainment, has nothing to do with this up. Please.
Well,
But first, let me ask if the board has any questions for the staff. Hearing none, please.
While you're disclosing that you're a neighbor across the street, I also live 2 blocks away. So
Okay.
in full disclosure, I want to make that known as well. Please let me know and just start.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kevin McGovern, speaking as a member of Rock Spring Homes. We'd first like to thank Blake and Meg for the time they spent in helping us prepare this request for the board and for the board's time in considering our request. We have a detailed, favorable staff report, so we'll take our time to concentrate on a few key points to hopefully provide you with enough information to follow the staff's recommendation to grant the use permit. The existing home was built in 1937. The previous owners made minimal improvements to the house to maintain its upkeep, and consequently, the house has fallen into disrepair.
Yep.
The existing house is non-conforming to today's zoning ordinance, and that its right side setback is 14.7 feet away from the property line instead of the current requirement of 25 feet, which puts the current home 10.3 feet into the setback. We are seeking a use permit to allow us to build a new home 18.7 feet to the main building from the property line, which is 4 foot further away from the existing house's setback. With the exception of the relief being sought on the 15th Street side, the proposed home would still comply with all other setback and building and zoning requirements. The existing home is located at the corner of North Buchanan and 15th Street. There are a couple unique characteristics regarding the location on 15th Street. First, 15th Street is positioned to the right-hand side of the street right away, shifting the street 10 feet away from the property line. Normally, the street would be located roughly 5 feet from the property line. Because of the shift in the right-of-way and pushing the setback further away on the proposed home, there would be a greater space between the house and the street than there would otherwise be on most corner lots. Second, 15th Street is not a through street. It dead ends into a parking lot for the hospice located behind the property. We are seeking the relief to free up a primary design constraint, which relates to the width and depth of the proposed home, as well as the size and proportion of the proposed yard. Essentially, we'd like to build a home that is wider and shorter versus a house that is longer and narrower. This request is not to maximize the size of the proposed home, as it is under both the main building and overall coverage requirements. Rather, we're seeking an equal exchange of land area to build a home that is more consistent with the other newer homes in the neighborhood, that's in keeping with the overall neighborhood aesthetic, and that's less detrimental to the existing trees and foliage. By obtaining relief from the setback, we'll be able to build a home that is wider and less deep into the yard versus the alternative of a long, narrow house. The proposed home design and relief will allow us to accomplish the following. By having a design that is wider and less deep, we will be able to stay 28.3 feet versus 10 feet away from the rear property line. This will save 2 trees on the left side adjoining property line, which is important to the adjacent neighbor, and allow us to stay out of the drip line and roots of the existing large poplar tree in the rear right-hand adjacent property corner. Excuse me. Building a wider, less deep home will provide for a larger, more normal backyard, allowing for more area to plant new trees, which will be adding to the overall tree canopy of the proposed property. Having a backyard will help preserve the natural landform and stay in keeping with the surrounding neighborhood. It will provide a nice, balanced yard for future homeowners, as well as additional privacy for them as the home backs to the parking lot of the hospice. Building a wider home will allow us to incorporate a garage into the floor plan, have additional off-street parking in the driveway, and build a home with architecture more in line with the surrounding area. The requested relief would place the home on the lot in a location that is compatible with similar structures surrounding the subject property, as comparable or greater relief has been granted to other corner lots within proximity to the subject property. The home is located in the last row of homes prior to 15th Street and is at the low point. There are only immediate residential neighbors on the left-hand side. The size of the proposed home is less than what could be built regarding footprint and coverage. We have notified all adjacent neighbors, and since the time of notification, there's been no objection to the setback relief from them that we're aware of. Both members of Rock Spring Homes live in and are members of the Arlington community. I have lived in Arlington my entire life and currently live in the Waycroft-Woodlawn neighborhood where we are seeking the use permit. We have a vested interest in building a home that is compatible with the neighborhood, does not adversely affect the neighbors or neighborhood, and replaces a blighted property with a new home that enhances the neighborhood. We appreciate your time and consideration and hope for a favorable decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the applicant?
Are you aware of the contents of the supplemental material that came to us today?
I'm sorry. I'm
I'm going to have to.
The letter from Mr. Bruce? Have you seen
No.
the letter from Mr. Bruce?
I have not.
Staff, could you share that with him so that he sees what we're seeing? We received a letter from the Waycroft, a close by neighbor and president of the Waycroft Woodlawn Civic Association. And I think we're going to hear from him, but I wanted to make sure that you had seen what we'd seen.
Also, I have supplemental information as well. Can I give that to the board?
You can take your time and read
You
it.
can, yeah.
And we'll hear
from-
testimony.
Any questions for the applicant before he sits down to read his letter? Thank you. Okay. Why don't you have a seat and then we'll hear from our speaker and talk to you again.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bruce? Thank you. Oh my, colorful. Michael Bruce? Is Michael Bruce available as a speaker for this item?
Ms. Freshman, I am aware that Mr. Bruce had another meeting conflict this evening, so said he was going to try to attend, but he wasn't 100% positive that he would be able to make it.
Okay, well, we do have his written comments, so that's fine. Thank you.
I wonder if the applicant could explain these
Oh, sure.
graphics.
Could you come up, please, so that we can hear you?
Yeah, the speaker's not here, so you're back on
Speaker,
deck.
yeah.
Sure.
Can you explain what you've
Absolutely.
handed us?
He had actually reached out to me via conversation about a week and a half ago.
Who had?
Um,
Oh, Mr. Bruce?
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And at that time, so I have not read this letter here, but he had at that time voiced some of these concerns to me. And my immediate response was that I was willing to meet with him and address any of the concerns that he had. He told me that they were already having a meeting and that they didn't have time to meet with us to talk this through because there was more pressing concerns for the neighborhood association at this time.
Right.
So I just wanted to make note of that we weren't trying to bypass the civic association, being that I live in the neighborhood, and we wanted to, answer all questions and obviously get their approval if it's able to do so. So.
Can you explain this?
So that, would you like me to just explain that paper right there would speak to the concern over a stormwater system.
Yes.
We're not intending to connect a sump pump to the stormwater system. So that's a concern that he has, but we're not going to be doing that. And that diagram there shows you that we have to actually collect all of the roof water runoff. So it's showing on each of the different colors where that water is going to. So there's 5 per the county's new requirements. We have to collect all of that. So there's 5 planter boxes on the home. Each one of those planter boxes has several different layers in it. They have plants, they have soil, they have rocks, and all of the water is collected from the roof and sent to the planter box. And then from the planter box, it runs underground to dry well storage areas. And it's not until those dry wells are filled up does the water then come up through a PVC pipe and come out of a pop-up emitter. The water is then dispersed on the property, and then it's diffused across the property. So I think that mitigates the concern. There's no additional water that's being created from the fact that we're building the property. If anything, we're collecting more water than otherwise would have been collected from the site and slowing it down as it dissipates. The other thing I wanted to note that I had mentioned in my speech was that we are on the low side
Yes.
of all of the adjoining neighbors. On that paper too, I've highlighted in blue all of the stormwater planters for everybody, so you can see where those are. Also, there's a blue line going around which shows the curb and gutter. There should be two little dots on that, and that shows where the stormwater inlets are. So there's actually two of them, one in front of the property and one on the side of the property. So once the water is diffused, it would then go to the street. So it's not running to a downhill neighbor, so nobody would be adversely affected by that.
And it's downhill from 16th anyway. Slightly.
Excuse me?
It's slightly downhill from 16th.
From 16th, from 15th?
16th.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. That's very helpful.
So what water is running into the street, did you say?
If any water were to run, because we're the low property, I don't know if, is the picture still up on the,
It's okay.
so that, right there, do you see the, all those houses starting left to right is grading down?
Yeah.
So where that car is in front, there's a stormwater inlet and there's one to the right. So eventually, once the water comes up through the emitter, if it were to go off of the
down
property,
15.
it's downhill from there and there's a stormwater inlet there. So it would go into the drain.
Right.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
So you're not connecting to the stormwater system, you're collecting on site.
Right. We're not running stormwater, a sump pump directly into the storm drain.
Okay, got it. Any other questions for the applicant?
So you are moving the house closer to the street.
Ideally, we would like to.
That's what you're requesting.
Right. And the reason why we want to do that is because we don't, if you look at page 8, I'm sorry, page 7.
Of your handout?
The first picture shows the front elevation of that house. It's actually directly across from us in the picture, and it doesn't have a garage. And also the backyard, as you can see, it backs directly up to the park. There's only a 10-foot backyard. So by being able to build a wider home, we would be able to maintain a rear yard similar to what you see on page number 9. One other thing I'd like to speak to, if you don't mind, of just of his concerns, because I have taken them into consideration because they're important to me as well. If you
Can, I'm sorry, before you do that,
yes, sir.
Pages 7, 8, and 9 in the new packet that we have is essentially neighborhood comparables for what you're trying to achieve. Is that a?
I would know. Page number 7 is what I would not want to do.
Right, I understand. Yeah.
Across the street.
I was using inarticulate language, but I
Yeah.
I
And then
understand. Thank
page
you.
number 8 is per the staff report, per the recommendation. This is one of the comparable properties that they've used and reasoning for granting us the use permit. And so I wanted to show that as a comparable reason and why we're seeking to do that.
And can you just briefly, there's what, 5 more pages? Can you walk us through those other ones real quick and talk about the trees?
Sure. The first page, if we just go to, you want to start at page 1? Is that right?
Sure.
So page 1 just gives an overall, so you can see from the street, there are, I would say, 3, main trees that we would be talking about, or to use his words of mature trees, if you will. Some of them, in fact, or I would argue or would state that are too mature. The first tree would be the tree that's in the front left-hand corner of the property. I talked to the adjacent property owner, and he has no stake in whether or not that tree stays.
And it's going, right?
Excuse me?
It's going, right?
I'm sorry.
The tree is going. You're cutting this tree is going on page 1?
Yes, I would want to take down the two
correct.
trees in the front. And the reason primarily being the tree in the the front left-hand corner, if you go to page 4, if you look at the highlighted section, there's three main things with the tree. One is the tree's leaning towards both my property and the adjacent property on the left-hand side. And some of the limbs are actually protruding over to where the new trees have been planted in the adjacent property, obstructing their ability to grow. Also on the highlighted, there's a wire that's connecting to the base of the tree going out to one of the limbs because the limb has been destabilized. So the tree currently is not in a stable state. So the likelihood of it surviving construction, let alone just by natural causes in the near future is unlikely. Also on page 4, if you look to the left-hand side of the highlighted portion, you can see that the tree is actually dying. So there's branches there that are indicating that the tree is not in good health. On page 5, the tree that's currently there is roughly 5 foot away from the house that's existing now. So there's just no way to save that tree and building a new home. Both the tree itself and the limbs from the tree would be encroaching into the home, and then the root bulb that would be disturbed during construction as well. Even if we could save it, would mean that the tree down the road would not survive. I would like to note on page 6, we're actually by getting the use permit and building a shorter, wider home, we would be able to save the 2 trees that are most important to the adjacent property owner on the left-hand side. And those are the 2 trees that I walked the property with him and were most important to him. By not having to go all the way back to just 10 foot off the property line, we would stay out of the root structure for those 2 trees, as well as if you go to page, I know I'm jumping around here a little bit, but the primary tree that I'd like to discuss is on page 2. The second picture of page 2, and this is the tree that I would say is the most mature and nicest tree on the property, or in proximity to the property. This is actually on the hospice's property directly behind us, and by staying 28 point whatever roughly feet away from that tree versus 10 feet away from the tree, we actually would be saving and helping to save this tree that's probably the nicest tree in the area versus going 10 foot back and getting into the root structure of that tree. So we also like trees, and if we can save them, certainly we do everything within our ability to do that. We feel like it adds to the community and also to the desirability of the property.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. Any other comments or questions?
Well, I do observe that the comparables that staff put in the staff report are not really nearby. The closest one is 223 feet away at 1502, which is a distance. 1502, I don't even see that.
It's across the park.
Yeah. So I don't, the comparables aren't directly speaking to this case. I think the comment that the applicant just made regarding, wanting to push the house back and impact on trees, sort of does mitigate that a little bit by keeping the house forward a little bit. It helps with the trees in the back. So I'm not sure. I think we'd be setting a bit of a precedent here by moving this house forward. But I can see a justification for it.
Okay, any other comments, questions?
Can you remind me how much more forward would this house be being?
It's a side, it's not forward, it's the side.
That's what I thought, sorry. And, okay, so same question on the side. What is the current setback versus, and I have obviously in front of me what the proposal is.
Sure.
I mean, what the current setback is.
We would like to build it 18.7 feet versus 25 feet.
No, so the as built right now, is it 25 foot?
Yeah.
Oh, as built right now, it's 14.7 feet away, so we would actually be further away.
Setting it back further.
Setting it back further, right?
But yeah, we would actually be back.
That's what I thought. That's what I was trying to get at.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it. We would be 4 feet further away.
So we're actually increasing the setback, not decreasing
In
it.
the
From-
front, in the front.
From the current, not from comp.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm looking at I'm a little confused because I thought that was the case, but when I look at the plat shows the existing building 29.8 feet from the street.
It's the side, I'm sorry, it's the side on 15th Street.
I believe the front's by right.
It should be, yes.
Corner, okay. Let me look at that again. I'm looking at this one. So, yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I
Very,
appreciate
very
your time.
thorough.
Just one question about the trees, because I think you're removing 3 from the front, but how many trees are you replacing with the project?
We're removing 2 from the front. Typically, we haven't done a full site plan yet as far as the arborists go, but generally speaking, for a home this size, we would put roughly 5 trees back.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, motion?
Madam Chair, first I would like to commend this applicant on his information and supplemental material, even though it was late. I found it very helpful and something that, it provided more information than we see in a lot of these new builds.
I agree.
And so I would just like to commend you on that. I also find that this house is entirely reasonable and it's not the typical house that comes before us that is tried to build to the limits.
That's right.
So that being said, I would be prepared to bring a motion if no one else has any comments.
Please. Go ahead.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit V-11800-22-UP-1, subject to the conditions listed.
Second.
Thank you. Motion to approve is made by Mr. Kaplan, seconded by Ms. Malice. I'll call the roll. Ms. Malice?
Aye.
Ms. Clark?
Aye.
Mr. Kaplan?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Approved.
Thank you very
4-0.
much. Appreciate your
Thank you
time.
very much.
Good luck.
Please call the next case.
Now, the next case on our agenda is case number V-11801-22-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Ann C. Runavara Peraro, the owner, to permit a street setback of 9.1 feet to the wall, 7.1 feet to the eave, instead of 25 feet to the wall, 21 feet to the eave from 19th Street North as required, regarding a one-story rear addition to an existing one-family dwelling on a corner lot in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 1826 North Stafford Street, within the Cherrydale Civic Association. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the use permit request. 2 alternative resolutions with conditions have been provided should the BZA see fit to approve the application as advertised or with a minimum street setback of 7.5 feet to the eave. Please note that there is supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packet was assembled and printed. This includes email correspondence it concerns email correspondence regarding revised plans to show the eave at 7.5 feet from 19th Street North with revised site plan and floor plans. It also includes email correspondence regarding neighborhood outreach with 2 letters of support.
Questions for staff?
This is the case where we have another plat to look at. Is that?
A bit similar to the case from earlier tonight where there's an alternative resolution with new documentation.
And you've reviewed it and it's consistent with The
Yes.
advertisement.
Mhm.
Okay. Any, oops. Hello. We've gone dark.
Hmm. We have lost our.
Momentary pause. Oh, we have no screen.
Somebody pull the plug.
Time to go.
Oh, see you later.
Check. Just a moment. We have. Freshman, we have tech support, I believe, in the building. I'm gonna go look for them.
Okay.
Perhaps might be appropriate to take like a 10-minute recess.
Okay.
We'll have to.
We'll have a momentary recess while we try to solve our technical difficulties.
Yeah, I need to break.
Okay. Wait for Blake. Huh? Sorry? They cannot? The public cannot see us?
Does it? Ah,
So plan on, we do it on Fridays. So that
and then you'll have the weekend.
The broadcast, we're broadcasting?
Yeah, Steven says he can see and hear us.
Okay, so we just need Blake.
So the meeting after.
Okay. What are all these little treasures? Can we find him?
Steven's telling him to come back.
Coming? Okay, break's over. Technology seems to be restored. Let us proceed. Would you please call the next case?
Certainly. Please remind me where we were.
801.
Sure thing. Okay, so next case number is case number V-11801-22-UP-1. This is a use permit request by ANC Renewald Perara, the owner, to permit a street setback of 9.1 feet to the wall, 7.1 feet to the eave, instead of 25 feet to the wall, 21 feet to the eave from 19th Street North as required, regarding a one-story rear addition to an existing one-family dwelling on a corner lot in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 1826 North Stafford Street in Cherrydale. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the use permit request. Two alternative resolutions with conditions have been provided should the BZA see fit to approve the application as advertised or with a minimum street setback of 7.5 feet to the eave. Please note that supplemental materials for this case have been submitted after the application packets were assembled and printed, including revised plan to show the eaves at 7.5 feet from 19th Street North, as well as neighborhood outreach regarding two additional letters of support.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff?
I'm trying to follow what, can you describe what the applicant did to shrink the project?
I can speak on that. I met with the applicant last Friday after the staff reports went out, and we discussed that we couldn't find any comparables as close as 7.5 feet, or sorry, as close as 7.1 feet as they requested in their advertisement language. So they went ahead and also submitted revised plans showing the eve at 7.5 feet.
So what did they actually do to shrink it?
Cut the eve back.
They just made a smaller eve. The wall is still in the same place?
Yeah, it's a 2-foot eve that was originally advertised. Willing to reduce it.
So there was no measurement to the wall, just to the eve?
There is a measurement of 9.1 feet. Staff could find comparables for that, but couldn't find for the eve.
Is that the dimension on the right rear of the
Right rear corner?
right rear corner?
Yeah.
9.1?
That's existing, right?
I believe so.
So this application, the house is already non-conforming. They're adding to the back.
That's correct, in line with the existing house.
They're just building it in line with the existing building.
Correct. I believe there's an existing screen porch that's 9.1 feet that's being further enclosed with a new building wall. And the building wall will maintain the same setback as the existing house from that street setback along 19th Street North.
And the way the street angles off, it actually is a greater setback as it goes to the back of
At
the
the rear.
porch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any other questions of the staff? This is confusing.
Well, I do appreciate, the applicant attempting to make this more compatible so that we don't have to make a decision on whether to set the bar even lower.
Right, right. Okay. Okay, hearing none. Can we hear from the applicant, please?
Hello. Good evening. I'm the applicant, Anne Pereira, and this is my daughter, Cassie Runewald. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak to you this evening.
We have lived in Arlington for 25 years. We've recently purchased this home to accommodate our multi-generational family. Soon we will be 3 generations living together in this house. We appreciate that this house is 122 years old. We love the large yard and mature trees. The house also has a sentimental value factor as my best friend was born and lived there for 25 years.
Wow.
We want to preserve this house and as much of the yard and the trees as possible. Our most pressing concern at the moment is that my mom needs a bedroom suite on the main floor level to meet her needs. And if we're allowed to enclose the existing screen-in porch, we can achieve these at a reasonable cost. Tearing down this house and building a new one is not really within our financial means. I also want to note when my partner and I did neighborhood outreach, the neighbors seemed very much in favor of this enclosure as they were happy to know that we were not going to tear down this home and do a new build. Staff recommends denying our request because there is no precedent that was mentioned, the closest being the 1.5 feet, 7.5 feet, I'm sorry. But we would like to point out that our house was built 20 years before any of the other homes in the neighborhood, and that the difference really is just that 0.4 feet of the eaves. We respectfully ask that you consider our request favorably, but we would also like to inform the board, it was already noted that we are happy to comply with the staff recommendation of the alternative number 2, which specifies that a street setback of the 7.5 feet is maintained to the eaves instead of the 7.1. Our architect, Patrick McCarthy, I think is still here virtually too to answer any questions. Thank you.
So just to reiterate, your alternative number 2, approval of a 7.5 street setback to the eve, is something that you can accommodate?
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant?
Not for the applicant. If we approve this and want to reference this plat, it does not have I'm looking, a date on it. We have to figure out how we'll identify it.
Yes, Ms. Malice. You could refer to it perhaps by the sheet title A0.0 within the supplemental materials packet for the case. I believe in my mind that would make it clear, and we do have, our supplemental materials are uploaded to our website as well as in our zoning division records. So we will maintain these drawings.
Would you repeat that? That would be a reference added to first condition?
Yeah, it could be done similarly to the case earlier this evening, referencing perhaps the sheet title, which is A0.0,
So-
and the sheet title architectural site plan.
Mr. Bowen, our original package also has an 80.0 in it.
Let's check the differences there and let's see if there's any.
I assume that this has been revised, but the stack number is the same.
80.2.
It could be done perhaps in conjunction of mentioning, I believe, let's see what condition number 1, how it's written, just a moment.
It's kind of hard to see the numbers. Are they different?
I do see an eave setback of 7.5 feet in the supplemental material submission, yes.
As a 2.5, I'm looking, well, what does the original say? Can you read what that original number was?
It should say 7.1, but I'm looking it up now.
Like 7.3. Pretty tiny. Did you say the architect was here?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, he's Joy.
Patrick.
I am on the phone.
Could you clarify the differences between the two plats?
So the two site plans that were uploaded, I think as Blake was kind of specifying, the initial one had an eave setback of 7.1 feet from the property line, and the revised one, which unfortunately I numbered the sheet the same way, it has a revised setback to the eave of 7.5 feet to, accommodate the alternative that was suggested by the staff.
So how do we identify the preferred 7.5 in terms of including it in a condition so that the proper document is referenced? If you had two with the same page number
There
or,
is actually a date listed, a separate date from the original.
oh,
On the side has a date of November 4th, and the new one providing supplemental material has a date of
Where do you
December 11th.
Where do you see the date?
12, 11, 22?
Very small in the left-hand corner,
Up in the corner.
in the bottom left-hand corner.
Yeah, it's a vertical text on the far left side of the drawing.
12, 11,
Mhm.
22.
12,
This
11,
one is,
So 12, 11, 22 is the one we want?
right.
Okay. But when it comes to that, we want to make
Okay.
sure we include the correct document. Okay. Any other questions for the applicants or their architect? Hearing none. You want to jump this time?
I'm gonna let Miss Malice try and do it because she did that last
I
one.
did such a good job on the
I'm not-
last
I thought you were
one.
going to take turns.
My mental acuity with adding is not here tonight.
Okay.
With adding the extra condition.
I see this application as approvable, and I'd like to move that in case number V-11801-22-UP-1, the Board of Zoning Appeals grants the alternate number 2 proposed resolution, which is approval of a 7.5-foot street setback to the eave, with the conditions listed in the staff report, with the addition to condition number 1. Says, as shown on the plat attached to the supplemental material submitted at the hearing dated 12/1/22.
Excellent. 12/11, wasn't it?
12/11/22.
Okay.
I will second.
Okay. Very good. We have motion approval, alternate 20, number 2, with an addition to condition number 1. I will call the roll. Ms. Miles.
Aye.
Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Mr. Kaplan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Approved 4-0. Thank you very much.
Conclude your item.
Enjoy. Okay, thank you. Call the next case, please.
Yes, the next case on the agenda is case number V-11802-22-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Cindy Katcher on behalf of Kushan Kelly Kumar, the owner, to permit a right side setback of 0.6 feet to the wall and roof instead of 1 foot as required, and to permit a rear setback of 0.8 feet to the wall and roof instead of 1 foot as required regarding a half-story addition above an existing non-conforming detached garage in the R10 zoning district on the premises known as 3232 North Albemarle Street. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions.
Excellent. Questions for staff? Do we have, we did not have supplement?
We did not have any supplemental materials or speakers for this case.
I'm the owner. I'm here.
What? We're not talking, we were talking about supplemental material.
Not yet.
Not yet.
So we don't have 4714 33rd, right?
That's correct. That's the most affected neighbor.
Okay,
I have a question for Mr. Bowen.
please.
Yes, Ms. Miles.
So is there a staircase that's involved here and kind of,
Yes, there is a new staircase and landing, which is being added to access the upper level of the garage.
and that is forward of the property line, or is that in line with this back line? I was really having trouble reading these.
It's
The stairs are close to the front facade of the garage, on the left side of the garage, I believe.
not the
Towards
property
the
line.
front.
Toward, yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Not
stairs,
towards the back property line.
correct, yes.
Okay.
toward the house and driveway.
Okay.
Yeah, and the stairs and landing do not require setback relief. It's just the building wall and eaves.
Got it.
Right, okay. All right. Any other questions for staff? Applicant? Are we having you or the screen, or what are we having?
Who's presenting?
Who's speaking?
I'm the property owner. I'm speaking. So, oh, there's Cindy.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, I'm Kelly Kumar, and my husband can't be with us. He's recovering from surgery, but we are requesting your approval for our garage that we bought the house in 2010, and we've been living here since. We have 3 kids. We know all of our neighbors really well, and have been very active in our community. The garage, we can't park in it right now, and so we'd like to do a remodel and be able to park in it and such. And to do so, we'd like to also not tear down the structure that's already there and work with what we have. It fits in nice with the architectural details of our house, and it does need some. It was built in the 30s, so it needs some improvements, but we would like to try to work with it rather than tear it down. Our neighbor that is closest to the property line on the side of the garage would very much also like us to not tear it down and keep it as is. And so that's why we're coming to you.
Have you been in touch with the neighbor to the rear, 4714?
Yes, I've been there several times. The owners of the house are not living in the house any longer. The people who are living in it, it's too I think they're the sons of the owners, but they are rarely home. They're rarely there. I only see lights occasionally, and they're only at like 11 o'clock at night. I've knocked on the door several times, and I've put letters through the mail slot, and I haven't received any information back from them.
What are their names?
I don't know. It's the sons, the owners. I know the owners' names. I think the Richard Birch, he I think is in a assisted living facility, and Pam Hawkins is his. I don't think they're actually married, but they were together and still maybe are together many, many years. I don't know if Mr. Birch he's still on the title, but I'm not sure if what his condition is. I know he had some medical issues a couple of years ago.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Kumar or her agent? Did you have comments that you wanted to make?
I think she covered everything. In addition to adding 9 square feet of coverage for the landing of the proposed staircase, you should note that we're reducing the asphalt on the driveway by 35 square feet. So there'll be a net of 24 square feet added permeable on the property, and I feel really good about that.
Okay, good.
Living on an RPA in Arlington County myself, I appreciate every square foot of permeable property.
Good, thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, on that point, it says that the proposed coverage is 39.5.
39.98 after we remove the asphalt.
Say it again.
Driveway.
49.
39.98, I think it is.
And you're permitted 40%.
We are.
So you have absolutely no room for error here.
We have no room for error, and we are building straight up on the existing. We're not adding, we're net subtracting 24 square feet.
So did you remove the asphalt in order to stay under 40%?
We will. We haven't done it yet. That's what we're proposing.
And that's in the drawing somewhere, or?
That's in the packet you have. It's on the right side of the driveway. And it's, yeah.
Yeah, you have no room for error, so double check your numbers.
We would, yeah.
Oh, okay, now I see where the stairs are.
There might be.
Trust me, I cringed when I heard the other case where the builder built 10 inches over the line. I couldn't, as a builder, I could never.
It happens. But if it happens to you, it becomes a variance and not a use permit.
It's a disaster.
It's a disaster.
And you're in a 10-foot setback or 10 inches of setback is very different than 10 inches of coverage or 10.
I understand.
Okay. So you just have to tear up more driveway.
Right. Okay, any other questions of Ms. Kumar or Ms. Keswick? No? Okay.
Motion.
Yes,
Madam
indeed.
Chair. I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution granting the BZA use permit V-11802-22-UP-1, subject to the conditions listed.
A second.
Okay, the motion is made by Mr. Kaplan and seconded by Ms. Clark. I will call the roll. Ms. Malice?
Aye.
Ms. Clark?
Aye.
Mr. Kaplan?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Your application is approved 4-0.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the staff. You've
Enjoy
been
your project.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope your husband feels better.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, please call the next case.
Yes, our next case on the agenda is case number V-11803-22-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Todd and Rhonda Daniel, the owners, to permit a right side setback of 7.8 feet to the front porch instead of 10 feet as required, to permit a left side setback of 8 feet to the front porch instead of 10 feet as required, and to permit an aggregate side yard width of 15.8 feet instead of 18 feet as required regarding a new front porch to an existing one-family dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 4658 5th Street South within the Barcroft Civic Association. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. Please note that supplemental material was received for this case after the application packet was assembled and printed, and this includes an additional neighborhood outreach letter.
Thank you. Questions for staff?
That outreach letter, I'm looking at the addresses here. Doesn't seem to be on the tax map.
4765, I didn't have.
That one.
571.
571 is in supplemental.
Sorry, that's the
Is it 511 or I think it's 511.
511.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a note
Oh,
of this
sorry. I heard
511.
you wrong.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Still missing.
We have
47.
Todd or Rhonda Daniel.
61.
Yes, ma'am. Both Todd and Rhonda are on.
Okay, go for it. Please explain your project to us.
Yeah, so we're just looking for variances for those side easements that were mentioned. The proposed porch is to run the length of the current property out in front. We did get a pretty robust neighborhood response with all of the neighbors front, side, and rear signing off. Apart from that, we just appreciate the board's consideration and here to answer any other questions you might have.
Any questions for the applicant?
I don't, it seems to be you're missing a rear neighbor. Am I missing something? Maybe I overlooked it. 4765, right? Your most rear neighbor?
No, that was the supplemental information. That 4765, Blake, I'd emailed that to you a few days back. I think that was the one that came the latest because they were no longer the owners of the property and were, they remain owners, but they're renting. So they sent us their email remotely.
That's wonderful. What we have is 511.
I will check my email. We may have missed that one. Just a moment.
Sure.
Okay.
I really appreciate your diligence. It makes our decision making.
Sure.
much easier.
Yeah. No. Yeah, the rear neighbor was, I know, the last one we sent over.
That was the only one that was missing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the one where they just they moved out a couple months ago and are renting that house out.
Yeah, that was fun. Or excuse me, 4765-6. That's the Blake. I had emailed that to you on the 6th at 4:52 p.m.
Okay.
Documentation.
Very specific. Okay, let me see.
Sorry, yeah. That's
Okay. Documentation.
Okay, I do see the
We have 61.
on the 6th, I see the 511 South Abington, and let me see if there's anything after that date.
Yeah, let me find that too. Maybe I'm mistaken. I know we
I do have an email from December 8th.
Oh, apologies. Maybe that email followed with the last rear neighbor.
And I have a signature from, it looks like Tristan at 4765 6th Street South.
Bingo.
There it is.
I apologize. We do have.
Okay.
Right.
See,
So
that could have been
it could have been expedited.
okay.
Motion?
Motion. I'm happy to.
Just coal in Blake's stocking.
Yeah. Cole made you wait till the end
I
of the
deserve
day.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Are we good?
In case V-11803-22-UP-1, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the proposed resolution approving the use permit subject to the conditions listed in the staff report.
I'll second.
Been moved by Ms. Malice, seconded by Ms. Clark for approval. I'll call the roll. Ms. Malice? Aye. Ms. Clark?
Aye.
Mr. Kaplan?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion is approved, 4-0. Congratulations. Enjoy your project.
Thank you.
And please call the last case.
Just a moment. Okay, the last case of the evening is case number V-11804-22-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Desiree Zega on behalf of Griffin and Michelle Cole, the owners, to permit a left side setback of 4 feet to the rear deck instead of 5 feet as required regarding a new rear deck to an existing one-family dwelling in the R10 zoning district on the premises known as 2397 North Quebec Street in the Dover Crystal Civic Association. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. We do not have any supplemental materials or speakers for this case either.
Excellent, thank you. Questions for staff? Applicant, Griffin or Michelle Cole, and/or?
Hi, Desiree Zaga here representing Griffin and Michelle Cole.
Excellent.
I'd
Anything
like
you'd like to say for the project?
Only that the Griffins, they have a small child in their house, and when they purchased the home in 2019, the existing deck was in need of repair to fix some critical issues. The footers supporting the deck aren't code, and the staircase is not structurally sound, and the wood is deteriorating and is cracked and splitting. So they would like to rebuild the deck. They have the support of all of the neighbors surrounding their area that they could find. The one neighbor that they didn't have, they attempted to contact several times up until the hearing to get their approval, but they were never able to make contact with them.
Which neighbor was that?
Is that 2400? Quincy?
Yes.
Okay.
And they're not directly affected by
Right.
the permit. They have the support of everybody that can see the deck.
Sometimes we're interested in land disturbance, so even if you can't see it, you may be affected.
No, I understand. They did try several times to contact those neighbors without any success.
Okay. Any questions, comments, motions?
Madam Chair,
Mr.
I
Kaplan?
move that the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution approving the use permit V-11804-22-UP-1, subject to the conditions listed.
I'll second it.
Been moved by Mr. Kaplan, seconded by Ms. Clark for approval. I'll call the roll. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Mr. Kaplan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. This request is approved 4-0. Thank you. Enjoy your project.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Kaplan.
I move to approve the minutes from the November 9th, 2022 BZA hearing.
Second.
Minutes for the November meeting.
November meeting, yes.
Hey,
Usually that's your job to do that.
I know. I appreciate you stepping in.
I'm doing the best I can.
Let me call the roll. Ms. Matt.
Aye.
Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Mr. Kaplan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Minutes are approved 4-0.
Madam Chair, if we're all present, do we need a roll call vote? We started that roll call vote when we were virtual.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, you mean for every motion?
Yeah, in the past.
Well,
we
I
just-
did ask one point and then I reverted back to.
Yeah,
because I thought we were, do you know if it's?
I do know that we started the roll call vote during the virtual hearing, so now that we're back in person,
We
it
probably
might
don't
not-
have
and
to.
everyone's been here, we might not need to do it.
Okay.
We can look into that further if needed.
We just say ayes and, ayes.
We
and
might want to
nays.
tell Ms. Lindsay, Ms. Arthurs.
I'll make a note of it.
Because it was her script, right? So what can I say? Are we going to do the calendar?
I like going last though, so
You do what?
I like to go last.
Well,
so I
now
can
then you'd have to go simultaneous.
make my mind up.
Well, if you go last, then you have to be chair. So think it over.
Wow.
Are we going to do the calendar?
I do have a conflict for January 11th,
Okay.
which I'm trying to resolve, but if I need to, I may just need the first half hour that I'll be gone, but there's an option I could still tune in.
Yeah,
virtually.
my feeling is that, I would prefer to just adopt the whole thing and deal with anomalies as we have to. So I know you have one, I think Lindsay will have one, and if we can move it at each one, I think for January is probably too tight to do that anyway. And then you would still have the hybrid option if you were somewhere else and
Yeah, I
wanted
know
to,
the first.
to dial in
First
late.
part, at least 30 to 45 minutes. I
You'd
would
just be late for the hearing. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah,
That's
as
fine.
as long as we had 3 people here.
Yeah, as long as there's a quorum, the meeting can,
So,
the hearing can proceed.
with 3 people here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
In person, yeah.
So we could still accommodate that.
Okay.
And yeah, I agree that revisions to the calendar can be considered on a case-by-case basis as needed as we move forward.
So I do think, I mean, I have no problem with approving a calendar, but it has been our practice to try, if people know that they have a conflict ahead of time, to try to schedule around it, only because random conflicts happen too. And so you don't want to start off with just 4 and then have, something else happen. So that's the reason.
Well,
So
I guess, and I mean, it's kind of up to you. If you want to, would you rather work on an amendment to this for June and December? Or I mean, I guess we could just go through May, but for me, it's better to put them all on the calendar for the whole year.
I can certainly work on
If
amendments.
we have to defer something, or especially knowing that one absentee puts a lot of pressure on everybody else, but it's bound to happen like it did tonight.
right, it's just that, you don't want to go in knowing, if you can avoid having any absences to start with, then, emergencies are easier to handle.
Right.
And so the question would really, and I'm indifferent if you want to just adopt through May or adopt the whole schedule, but what I would be looking at is, does the board want to look at another date for June so that I could be here? I'm completely fine with missing it. I mean, it's not to accommodate me, but if you all want to look at the next week out, I would be back by then.
Do we know if there's
And
what
you
the room
probably don't know
situation
this now.
Not offhand, no. I would suggest that we certainly,
adopt it, and then he can check the room availability for June and December.
Yeah, same thing, because I think Lindsay had a holiday thing last year, and I think we've just been hitting.
Yeah, well, and we could ask her whether this one works or not.
Right.
It might be that it's only the June one.
Right.
And then we could easily amend the calendar once you know what the dates are and we confirm. Does that work?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Ready?
Madam Chair, I motion approval of the BZA calendar for 2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Kaplan, Ms. Malice. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed. Okay,